If there's anything that can bring life to your boring static designs, it has to be animations. Learning motion design from scratch can be a long and complicated process, and I have already made many tutorial videos on it. I have a dedicated playlist. I will leave it linked in the description. But above all, if you don't have a high-end computer that can run After Effects, then you can't do anything about it. But don't worry, because I'm here for you as always. Because today I have a tool using which you can create engaging animations like this right from your browser and bring life to this flat, static and lifeless design. I have been waiting for a tool like this for very long because this is like Figma but for motion design. And trust me, this tool can democratize motion design, because if you know how to use Figma and you're watching this video, you will be able to pick up motion design without the need for you to learn After Effects. If you've watched my tutorials on motion design using After Effects, you'd probably remember me saying that you just need to know 5% of After Effects to be able to do 95% of the things that matter to you as a product designer. Now looks like these guys have heard me saying that. So what they did is they just picked those 5% out of After Effects and put it in a simple but easy to use interface and made it a new tool. And today in this video, I'm going to use this new tool to create an animation and also export it as a Lottie right here. So without any further delay, let's get started. The name of the tool is LottieFiles Creator. Yes, you're already aware of what LottieFiles is. Here it is open in front of me, but now they have also started something called Creator. Previously, using LottieFiles, you could export Lottie from After Effects, or you could create or optimize an existing Lottie in their web interface. But now they have a Creator as well, where you could actually create things from the scratch, and that's the tool I'm talking about. So the dashboard is pretty same as what it was before, but here you see a new button which says Create Animation in addition to Upload Animation, and this is where the magic happens. So I'm going to go ahead and create animation, and it opens a new tab. If you see, everything is running in my Chrome browser, and there it opens the tool. That's it. It's as simple as this. On the left, you will see there's a toolbar which talks about get started, essentially tutorials, and then discover animations. You can upload assets, or you can use duplicator tool. You can even use AI prompt to vector. So, you don't even have to start building things here. You can simply write a prompt and it's going to give you some illustration, which could be the starting point for your animation. But I'm not going to use that today because I'm going to do things on my own. So there it is. We also have something called kinetic typography, where you could actually embed text within your animation, which of course is possible in After Effects, and they're calling it kinetic typography here in the LottieFiles Creator. All right, so here it is. So this is my file. The moment I create something, it opens up in a new tab. I'm going to give it a name because I'm going to create a success loader today. So whenever you place an order on any e-commerce or something, a green tick animation kind of comes up, right? That's what we're going to make here today. So I'm going to call it success animation. Okay, and by default, the artboard which they make is 500 by 500. We can change it. I'm going to make it slightly bigger. I'm going to make it 1080 by 1080 here on the right side panel. Of course, 1080 by 1080 is actually too big for a animation like this, but for the sake of this demonstration, I'm going to make it slightly bigger so that it's a little bit comfortable, showing and demonstrating the thing out there. Okay, so here it is. So I can close this panel if I need to. And at the top, if you look at it, it feels pretty much like Figma. It has a move tool, it has a move anchor tool, which is related to animation, and it has a tool of shapes, rectangle, ellipse, polygon, and star, just like you have on Figma. It has a pen tool, just like you have on Figma. It has a hand tool, just like you have on Figma. And it also has a right panel, which has the details about any things that you select out here. Now, what is different here from Figma is that in Figma, you have a layers panel on the left-hand side. Here you don't have that. Reason, because we have a timeline here at the bottom. The timeline also acts as the layer panel, because now when you add the concept of timeline to layers, you essentially have a timeline. So that's where it is. So I can go ahead and draw anything, maybe a rectangle like this. And the moment I draw, you see this is the layers panel that we have out here. And this is the timeline where we are going to make keyframes and create that animation, which I'm going to tell you in a while. And just like Figma, when you click on it, you get to see some of the properties of this shape. Since it's a rectangle, I can change the angle, I can change the anchor point. I can also open this up, and inside I will see a group. So yes, this rectangle has multiple things inside it, which is nothing but a path and a fill, because these are the two things this shape has: a rectangle which has a path and a fill. I could even add a stroke to it if I want to. There are many other properties which we could keep adding out here. So that's the rectangle path. I can give it a rounded corner, I can do a whole lot of things just like I can do it in a design tool like Figma, but I can also animate. All right, so let's go ahead and start animating, and we are going to learn a thing or two while we are animating this success loader. So let me just plan it a bit. The way that I have in my mind is there will be a circle which will go from scale of 0 to 100. It's going to take up certain size, and then there'll be multiple circles because I want to create some drama using that. You will see what happens in a while. And after that, a small white tick will come over it. That'll be the end of our animation. It's a very short 1 second animation, but we'll spend some time perfecting it and making it look interesting and nice. Okay, first things first, I'll draw an ellipse. I will press and hold the shift key to make a perfect circle like this. And once I have it, I will just center it with the artboard by using the align tool out here, just like Figma, nothing different. And it's blue right now. I'm going to give it a shade of green. I have a shade of green in my mind, so I'll just paste the hex code here. You can pick whichever shade of green that you like. So this is one. So what we are going to do is I'm going to just animate one circle from 0 to 100, give it some easing values, and after that we will keep making copies of it and move around the keyframe so as to bring other circles as well, which will create some drama around it. So there we have it. Here's the ellipse, and like I said, every shape is composed of minimum two things, which is the shape itself, which is nothing but the path, and then a fill, and it could also have a stroke. In our case, we don't have a stroke because we don't need it, so it is just the ellipse path and a fill right here. Everything is nicely inside a folder, so don't have to worry about all these things which are happening out here, okay? And the animatable properties are simple, which is position, scale, opacity, rotation, and there's also another thing called path animation, which we will use towards the end, okay? Now, again, in my After Effects tutorials, I've clearly called out that these are the 4 most popular animatable properties, and like I said, they have actually taken those 4 things and put it inside this tool because, you know, most of the people wouldn't need anything more than that. All right, so we are going to do a scale animation. So this is my handle, and this is the timeline. If you see, it's written 0 seconds, 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds, which is I think by the duration of the animation. And wherever we place this handle and put a keyframe, it saves a particular state of that shape or thing that you're animating. And once you move the handle ahead and put another keyframe, that keyframe will store another information about that, which is another state of that same shape. Let me explain it with an example which will make it very, very easy. Okay, so here I have a circle. Let's assume it's at 100% scale right now. So here I'm going to click on animation toggle and click on scale, or the keyboard shortcut for this is S. So I'm going to click on scale and I'll close it. You'll see it has actually added one small polygon sort of thing out here. This thing is called a keyframe. Now I can click on it and I can move it around. Now this keyframe can store properties. So that's the work of a keyframe. So here I have one keyframe, and if you see, it's a scale keyframe that is added out here, and it says 100% width, 100% height. I can click on this thing which is constrained proportions, and now both of them can move together. And if I make it anything, if I make it 20%, if you see, it has become 20%, and this keyframe will store this information that 20% is the scale at t equal to 0. This is the timeline, if you remember. Okay, now I'm going to move this ahead a bit. Okay, let's not worry about how much we are moving. So this is 1 second and it is divided into 5 different sections. Let me take to the 5th section. You know, let's not worry about what frames and all it is right now, but this is 1 second and slightly less than 1 second is what I have taken. And here I'm going to add one more keyframe. And how do I do that? By clicking on this one. By clicking on this outline thing, I'll click on it and I'll get one more keyframe out here. And here I will change the values from 20% to 100%. Okay. And guess what? We have already animated this. So now if I move this handle from left all the way to the right, you see what's happening? It is growing from 20% all the way to 100% between these two keyframes. And if you want to see how it plays, just move this handle. This handle is nothing but, the position where, you are presently right now. If you move it all the way to 0 second and do a preview, the way to do preview is either you click on this play button or you just hit space bar. You see, that's the animation, right? I can press space bar once again to stop the animation and I play it once again. That's the animation, right? That's like a basic animation. Now let us quickly make some changes to it, right? I don't want it to start from 20%. I want it to start from a state where it's invisible, which means 0%. So I'm going to make it 0%. So it's not visible. And now when it animates, it starts from nothing because it's 0 all the way to 100%, which is the size that I had decided. Okay. All right, now this is fine. The basic animation is there, but it is happening in a very linear way. So we will add some easing to it. Now, if you use After Effects, you will know that easing a keyframe or making the motion smooth is a fairly complicated process. You need to click on it, right click on it, and then go to velocity curves and then add some values and stuff like that, which makes it complicated, but also makes it a lot fun because you could do minute adjustments and calculations. I love doing it. I love having that extra control that I have on After Effects. But I have been animating for the last 9 years of my life and I am so much comfortable doing it. But I also know that most of you aren't, perhaps, and probably you wouldn't need all those control. And that's what this tool has actually done. It has removed all those complicacies and simply given you 2 options. Let me show you what those are, right? Now, there are 2 keyframes. We would smoothen both these keyframes, which will eventually smoothen the motion which happens between these 2 keyframes, okay? So let's select the first one. And on the right hand side, you will see it has a section called easing. By default, linear is selected, which means everything was straight and boring. You make it smooth. That's it. That's it. That's it. You have smoothened the animation for this keyframe. Right? Let's do it for the last one also. Like last one, when you see, it has 2 options. In the first one, since that's where it was starting, you saw only one which said out. That is the velocity of the things that are moving out of it, because that's where it is initiating, so it moves out of it. And in this one, you have 2 options, which is in and out. Now, in this case, since this is the end of the animation, things will move into it. So that's why we will tweak the in animation. By default, they are set to linear. We will make them smooth. Now, if you make changes to out, doesn't really matter because we don't have anything else. Had there been a third keyframe which is doing something else, then this out would also make sense. But right now, since there's nothing beyond it, it really ends out here. I will make the in one smooth. Okay. Now, if I go ahead and play, you will see it is smoother. It starts slower, it speeds up, and then it also ends slower. So that's what smoothing does to you. All those complications that you have in After Effects is narrowed down to one single click here in this tool. Of course, lesser controls, but makes it much easier. Okay, wonderful. Now we have this. Now in this regard, I'll make one more change out here. The overall frame rate, the FPS of this animation, right? Every animation has number of frames per second because animation or a video is nothing but certain number of still pictures in 1 second. And the more the FPS, the overall more smooth the animation or the video is, right? So to change that, I can do it. I'll have to deselect everything. And the way I do it is I click anywhere here. Now, when I click here, you see I see a couple of things, which is nothing but, first of all, the size of the artboard itself, which was 1080 by 1080. The duration, it's set to 5 seconds right now. I actually don't need because it's going to be a 1 second animation. So I'll just make it 2 seconds, so that I have some buffer. And FPS, I'm going to make it 60 because 60 is good enough. These days, no phone is a 30 FPS screen. Even the most basic phone has at least a 60 FPS screen. So I'm going to keep it 60 FPS because this will get converted into Lottie when you put it in an app or a website or something, right? So once I make it 60 and I see again, you would find it smoother. Now, even if you're not able to see the smooth animation in the video, it's because of this video that you're seeing also has an FPS, but when you export it as a Lottie, you will actually see. Okay, so here I have the first circle, which is ready. Now this ellipse, I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call it dark green 1. Okay, now I'll make a copy of it. Now you might be saying, where did your keyframes go? They are here. You just have to click on this open drop down and you will start seeing the keyframes, which is nothing but this. And this has become a circle because you have made it as smooth. So when you make it a smooth keyframe, it changed the shape to a circle from the quadrilateral. If I want to show it to you once again, this is selected. If I click on linear, it becomes the older shape. If I make it smoother, it becomes circle, which indicates that it's a smooth keyframe and not a linear keyframe. Okay. All right. Now let's make a copy of this dark green entire thing. I'll select this like this. I'll click on it. I'll hit Command D on my keyboard. So it has made a copy. Now this one, I'm going to call it light green. And I'll also change the green color to a light green. I'd also decided a color for light green. I have the hex code copied here, and the light green one, I'll just go and paste that, which is nothing but a lighter shade of green. Okay, you may not see the difference because right now both of them are right on top of each other. So the light one is over the dark one, and to ensure that both of them are visible, I will select both these keyframes and I will move them slightly towards the right. Now, how much, it depends on you. I'm going to move it by, maybe couple of frames like this, and I will leave it like this. And I will actually test it that it's fine or not using my eye estimation. So there it is. And I will move it little behind here. So what this decides is essentially what I did when I moved those keyframes is I instructed it to start the animation of the light green circle slightly slower, this much slower. So till here, the light green has not even started. The dark green has grown up to a certain extent, but the light green has not even started. But after this point, the light green also starts to grow, and the dark green was anyways growing, and it goes on. And around here, the dark green has fully grown and the light green has still a little more to go. So it goes all the way here. This is where both of them are fully grown. Okay, so this is what we have it. We have a second circle that we have added out here. You see, it's already creating something interesting rather than a simple circle which is growing. All right, now we'll make a third circle. So I'll take this light green one. I'll make a copy of this. I'll hit Command D again, and I will just open it again to see the keyframes like this. And I'm going to do the same thing. Select both of them and move them slightly towards the right, almost similar to what I had done before, right? So now I have 3 circles. Now what I will do is I have one dark green and 2 light greens on top of each other. Now to make it again more interesting, I'm going to select the center one, which was light green before. I'm going to make it white. It's going to give it a distinct look. And of course, I'll change the name of it to white. I'll hit enter, and there I can name, I'll call it white. Now what happens is first I have the dark green, then I have a white, then I have a light green. Okay, you see what's happening? The dark green is growing till here. Then here the white also starts growing. Now as the white is growing, the light green also starts growing. So it's like an inception, 3 concentric circles growing at slightly delayed from each other, and then all of them grow into full complete circles like this. Now I'll add one more circle to it, which is nothing but another dark green circle, and that's going to end. That's where the tick is going to come. So I'm going to make a copy of this last one that I had out here, dark green 1. I'll select this and make a Command D. So I have one more dark green. I'll bring it all the way to the top in the layers panel. Now my dark green is at the top. I'll open it up to see the keyframes. If you remember, the dark green was initially starting from all the way left. Now the copy, I'm going to move it again to the right. Now I'm using eye estimations. You see, when you start doing an animation, you start by calculating frames and seconds and all, but as and when you are modifying the animation and making it smoother and making those micro changes and polishing, you rely on your instincts and your eye and not really on your numbers. So that's what I'm going to do out here. So, you can also count frames. For example, between these two, there's a difference of around 12 frames, 11 or 12 frames, but it's okay. You just use your eye estimation to understand. You see, now when I played, you see what's happening. But here I will make one small change. The final one, I'll name it dark green 2. The dark green 2 shouldn't be fully 100%. Now here's what I'll do is I'll make it slightly smaller, maybe around 70%. Or maybe 75%. Yes, 75% looks good enough, so that it starts with dark green, then comes white, then comes light green, and then comes another dark green, and there it ends. Okay, so this is what I'm going to keep it. Now, the way it appears, we will keep moving around to tweak them. And I already feel that this can go a little early. So I'm just tweaking them. You can tweak it based on what you feel is right. So I'm just going to keep moving them a little ahead, making them slightly faster because I don't think they need to be this slower. And then, keep reviewing it to see how it looks. I'll just speed up this section and you can just animate them the way you want. All right, I think this one looks good. I moved around things a bit. This is where I have arrived to. You feel free to move around the keyframes like the way you want so that you get the desired effect that you're looking for. Some people would want it slightly slower towards the first and then gets faster towards the end. Or some people may like the way I did it. Even I kind of made it slow towards the end but then went slightly faster. Yeah, adjust your choice. So just keep moving them so that you can control when each one of this starts and when each one of this ends. Now the point to note out here is to understand what keyframes are. Keyframes are nothing but the things which determine the initial and the final point of an animation. This is where the animation starts, this is where the animation ends. And the space between them is the duration of the animation. So which means this particular one, dark green 2, if I again look at it, this is where the animation is starting. Before that, it is just sitting out there in its 0 scale position. This is where it starts, the center dot if you see. This is where it starts and this is where it ends. And now if I just move it to the right and reduce the space between the two keyframes, what I'm essentially doing is I'm making the animation faster. If you see how it will happen now, the big one just suddenly bursts. I don't want it that way, right? So I'll bring it back to the way it is because I want the sequential scaling because that's the effect that I'm trying to get out here. Okay. Yeah, that's what it is. But I also feel that, there's a bit of an extra space between the white and the green. So I could probably, move things a bit like this. But again, I am nitpicking. So you feel free to make it the way you want. So I think I will just do this final touch like this. And these already look good to me. Okay. Now we just have one small thing remaining, which is nothing but the tick. So let's go ahead and animate the tick. And in this case, we will be doing a path animation. Let me tell you what a path animation is. But first thing, we'll have to draw a tick. So I'm going to quickly grab the pen tool. This is the pen tool out here. And the pen tool functions just like the way it happens on Figma. Nothing new out there. So I'm going to click here, and then click here to create a tick. So here's my tick. By default, it has a gray fill and a black outline. So I can open this path 4 is nothing but the tick. I'm going to give it a name, tick, like this. And I can open up this folders and you see this is the path shape. And like I had said, it could have a fill or a stroke. Now here's a fill. We don't want the fill out here, but when I click on it, you will see the fill color gray, the default one. And this is the opacity of the fill. I will set the opacity of the fill to 0 so that it's not seen. And now if I look at it, I feel that it can be a little more steeper. So I'm just going to create on this path out here. Click on edit path. Now when I click on edit path, I can modify the path just like I can do in Figma. So I'm going to just click on this and bring it something like this so that it just feels like a slightly steeper tick like this. Okay, so there I have my tick. And of course, this is not the tick that I'm looking for. I'll click on the stroke of this tick and I will increase the stroke width to a thicker value. Let's try 64. Yeah, I think 64 is good. And of course, I don't want it to be black. I want it to be white. Okay, so here it is. So you see everything is there. The tick is simply sitting out there. It's not really doing anything because we haven't animated the tick yet. It's just the circles which were behind, they're animating. Now somewhere here, when the circles are kind of here, so I can move this handle to determine when I want to do something. So when the circles are around this size, I want the animation of the tick to start. Okay, now there are two kinds of animation that I will do to the tick. First, we will scale it. So maybe here, when it is here, I want the tick to scale. Okay, now in this regard, there's one more thing that you need to see what is happening. So somewhere here, I will start animating the tick. So my tick is selected. I'll click on this animation toggle and click on scale. So one keyframe gets added out here. I'll move it a little ahead. Somewhere here, I'll add a second keyframe, which is this. So I want my scaling of the tick between these two durations. Now here, towards the end, this is how it will be, the size, the full size. But somewhere here, when it starts, I want the tick to be smaller, 0 actually. So, but before that, I'll make it 0. But before that, I will turn on this, which is nothing but constraint proportion. Okay, now here I'll not directly make it 0 because you'll not be able to see before we tweak it. I'll make it 20% so that you at least keep seeing what is happening. So this is my 20% and you see what's happening. This is the tick is growing along with that. Okay, the tick is growing like this. Okay, and of course, once we make it 0, it'll not be visible. It'll just feel right. But this is not the only thing that I will do. I'll also do a path animation to it. Okay, now ideally, I would want to do a path animation for the entire tick, but I saw that the effect that I was trying to get it will be enough if I just do one part of the path animation, and that's what I will do out here. Okay, so I click the tick, I select the tick, and in the tick I want to animate the path. So I'll click on the path here. Okay, so here, somewhere here, the end of the scale animation is when I will start the path animation. So path is selected. Now when I click on edit path, you will see this path thing appears with a similar, rotated square or what, a diamond shape, as I would call it, which appears out here. Now clicking this one here would add a path animation here, a path keyframe here, and you see it says edit path here. This appears and one keyframe is added, and now I will move this a little ahead somewhere here. Maybe when the animation ends, I'll add one more path animation, which is nothing but this edit path. I'll click here. Now I have two keyframes here. The end one, of course, will remain like this. The initial one, I will make some changes out here. Okay, so while it is here, I'll click on edit path and I will pull this and bring it here. So you see what's happening. And now if I go ahead and play, it will just move it this way, which is giving an illusion as if the tick is being drawn with hand or anything like that, right? And combined with this, we already have the scale animation that should make it feel that it's a hand-drawn tick which is being made. Okay, so here is it. Now I'm gonna go, because if you remember, we had made the scale of it 20% instead of 0. Now is the time where I'm gonna make it 0 so that it's not visible. Okay, so here it is. So here I have it. So I'll just go all the way towards the beginning, and there I have it, and there I have it. But the more I look at it, it just feels like that the tick is coming from the center, which is okay, but the effect that I'm looking for is I want the tick to actually scale from this position itself and not go there. And now there's a way to do it, because here you see, whenever there's a scale happening, it always happens via one point of an object. The tick is a bigger object, but it is scaling from the center, and that center point in this case is called an anchor point. So any effect that you do, be it scale or position or something, it happens about that point. Think of it like the center of gravity, if you remembered in physics, but it's not exactly center of gravity because you can change it. And that's what I'm going to do now today. Now you remember there was something called move anchor tool, which is not there on Figma. I was telling you, this is where the move anchor tool will come into the picture. The move tool will move the object. Move anchor tool will just move the anchor point. And if you see what an anchor point is, this thing is an anchor point. This the gun point sort of thing that you see. Right now the anchor point is here. So the scaling is happening about that anchor point, which is somewhere at the center. Now all that I need to do is just hold this anchor point, bring it somewhere here. And now it is going to scale about that anchor point. There you see. Now it doesn't feel like it's coming from the center, because coming from the center is not what my aim is. My aim is to make it look like it's being drawn that way. There we have it, right? And I'm going to add some smoothing to the scale animation of it towards the end. The starting one, I'm not going to do anything. I'll just keep it linear, but where it ends, the scale one, since everything is also scaling and smoothing, I'm going to make the in animation of this scale as smooth. Okay, there it is. Now if I just go ahead and play it, yes, this is like the way I want it. So I'll just zoom it out a bit so that you see what is happening. I'll move it all the way to 0 and play it. There I have my success animation. Awesome, there I have my success animation. I'm done, and everything is cloud based. So the success animation file, you see it is being synced, or it is synced to the cloud, and I can keep seeing all of them in my dashboard right here on the LottieFiles dashboard, right? And before we end this video, I'm also going to show you how to export it as a Lottie, which is very simple, because Lottie's work is to create Lottie. Now they have created a creator, and you can definitely generate a Lottie from that creator. All that you need to do is, after you're done with it, in Figma on the top right, you have a button called share to share your Figma file with other people. Here you have something called export. So you click on this export and it just launches your workspace, opens up a new tab, and it opens up the same Lottie preview that you have always been using to preview your After Effects Lotties. And there you have a success animation. And I can open and turn off the transparency grid, And if I click on save, it will get saved as a Lottie animation in my LottieFiles dashboard. And I can go there and download that .json file or the .lottie file, and I can share it with the developer, or I can directly share it using LottieFiles tool itself by using the link. So I'm just go ahead and click on this save, and it gets saved to my dashboard. There it is saved now, and you can see this is my Lottie, and it just celebrated with some confetti out there. Now all that I need to do is just click on this share button and share it with my developer, or I can download it as a .json or an optimized .json, which is a premium property, or a .lottie or an optimized .lottie. So the optimized files are even smaller in size, which your developers will definitely appreciate. So here it is, an animation which we all would have otherwise created using a tool like After Effects, now can be created on a simple Figma-like web-based tool called LottieFiles Creator. Isn't it wonderful? Did you like that success animation? If yes, let me know in the comments how would you rate it in a scale of 1 to 10. And make sure you try out LottieFiles Creator, the link is in the description. And if you're looking for a full roadmap to become a UX designer in India in 2024, check out this video. And for free design resources, check out this video. Until next time, this is Sapta signing off.